Welcome to the Me Plus Ultra Network. This is your go-to destination for insightful conversations with industry leaders shaping the future of business. I'm Scott Joseph, your host, and today we're diving deep into the world of business diversification, portfolio expansion, and income stream optimization. I threw in as many big words as I could there just to pay homage to our guest host, the esteemed Sandy Cerami, aka the Solutionist. He's going to be joining us. He's known for his expertise in business development and strategic planning. Thank you, Sandy, for joining us today.
My pleasure, buddy. Great to see you guys.
Always good to see you. Our featured guest is Brady Schmidt. He's the president. He's the CEO of National Business Brokers. He's a true titan when it comes to retail automotive. He's got over 3 decades of experience in this industry. Brady has overseen hundreds of sales, mergers, acquisitions, making National Business Brokers the largest new car dealership brokerage firm in the country. With a wealth of knowledge, proven track record, Brady's here to share his insights on mastering business diversification for growth and success. Brady Schmidt, welcome to the Me Plus Ultra Network.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Sandy. Great to see you guys.
Great to see you, buddy.
I am excited about this show for many reasons. So I think a lot of people, when they hear business diversification, if you're in the C-suite or if you're a business owner, the first thing that jumps to your mind, and I want to set this record straight about what this show's about right out of the gate. I think the first thing when we hear those two words, we think, oh, how can I want to diversify my income streams coming into my business. I want to grow the business, not just vertically, but horizontally. But really what this show is about, and I think you're a perfect example, a true entrepreneur, Brady, on this. You've grown your business portfolio. A lot of people might have side hustles. You've got multiple big business deals happening. You're over a lot of different things, and I want us to focus a lot on that and the benefit and how you got it done and why. But first, if you could share a little bit about your background, your journey in the automotive industry, that'd be great, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Scott. So, I got in this business by accident, like most people get into things that they do. I was graduating college. My father had started National Business Brokers in 1978. A very successful company that started here in Southern California, selling all kinds of businesses. We had 25 agents in the office, selling about 100 to 150 businesses a year, everything from donut shops on the corner to manufacturing companies. And in 1984, my father listed a used car dealership that was right next door to a Mercedes-Benz store. And he's like, this Mercedes-Benz dealership needs this used car lot. It's landlocked. So he walks in the showroom of this new car store, first time that he'd ever, been in a new car dealership for the purpose of talking about mergers and acquisitions. Asks for the owner. The owner walks out. Lloyd Pearson Sr. walks out, 97 years old.
Oh my God.
Going to work every day in a suit, selling cars, just an amazing guy. He and my dad talked for about 15 minutes. My dad tells him about the lot next door, and he said, Kent, my son, the young buck around here, makes all the decisions. Let me have him come out. So Lloyd Pearson Jr. comes out, 67 years old. And so by the time he left that showroom, he had a listing on Lloyd Pearson Mercedes-Benz that he could now couple with that used car lot next door.
Brilliant.
And sold that dealership to Fritz Hitchcock, which anybody who's been in the car business in the Southwest would know that Fritz is an absolute legend in the car business. And Fritz and my dad became great friends. My dad fell in love with car dealers. Fritz was one of those guys that was involved in the Little League. He was going to the Rotary Club. He was donating money to the Boys and Girls Club. He started charities. I was personally with Fritz a couple of times when he wrote a single mother a check for her son's college tuition after about a 5-minute conversation. Literally pulled his checkbook out of his coat pocket and wrote a check for college tuition for her son to go 4 years to college. So those kinds of things, and my dad was that way too. My dad was very giving, but cared about people and really cared about other people's success, I think, more than he cared about his own. And he just realized that if he helped enough people become successful, that success would follow him. So I think that those lessons made huge impressions on me. But here's how I got in the business. I got a phone call a week before I'm graduating from college. I'd already accepted a job with Johnson & Johnson. Was going to be a sales rep in LA for one of their divisions. And I didn't know anything. I mean, I'd had a couple of business classes in college and had a business degree. And, I was 22 years old. Get a phone call from my father, and he tells me that his partner of 13 years and childhood best friend had been embezzling from him and had taken about $8 or $9 million. We still don't even know what the number was today. And he had passed away. And that's how we found out that he was embezzling money. And we owed a lot of people money. This is back before electronic banking. So he was writing checks. He'd stolen so much money that the company was really insolvent. And my dad thought we had a healthy balance sheet. Thought it was a very healthy company. It should have been a very healthy company. And he was keeping 2 sets of books, and he was writing checks and depositing them in a bank. And he did it with 6 banks. And he was just writing checks. And as soon as that check would hit, he would write another check into the other one. And he just was floating about, $7 or $8 million between 6 banks. And so when we found out about it, my dad obviously had to deal with the banks and the authorities, and they found out very quickly he had nothing to do with it. But he made a decision. His attorney, his accountant were telling him that he had to file bankruptcy. We had agents holding commission checks, and my dad said, we're not going to do that. We're going to pay every person back every dollar that they're owed. And so he asked me to come to work for him. My first job was I would sit in the office. I was 22 years old, and the youngest person I think in our company at that time was probably 55 or 60. Almost every agent were former business owners that had sold their businesses and then came to work with us as an agent to sell other people's businesses. And so that's how we basically built the company. And so I'm sitting there 22 years old, and my dad would close a deal, or someone in the office would close a deal. And we had, I think, close to 50 creditors at the time that we owed money to. And I'd get everybody on a conference call. And I would say, okay, this week we took in this much money. And I would just go down the line. And I'd say, I can give you $3,000. I can give you $5,000. I can give you $15,000. And at the end of every call, I would say, listen, any one of you can put us out of business. You guys file a lawsuit, or you put in too hard of a claim, you're going to put us out of business. But I promise you, if you just stay with us, we'll have these calls every week, and we'll pay every single one of you guys every dollar we owe you. It took us 10 years, and we paid every single bank, every single vendor, every single customer. And it's amazing. We didn't lose a bank. We didn't lose a customer. We didn't lose an employee in that whole process.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And how many years ago was that again?
So let's see. That was 1991 to 2001.
Wow.
First off, I love the approach. Well, let's not gloss over just the core values, which is probably the most important part of that story, right? Incredible ethics and integrity there. But the approach, we're all in business, right? And we've all been owed money, and we've all had that feeling, that gut feeling when this payment may come, it may not. Right. Right. So
it was like, it really may not. It really may not.
And so what I love about it, I think, and I told this to another business owner once, but it had more to do with her personal thing. She was struggling. Her business was struggling a lot, and she was struggling to pay her rent. And the advice I gave her was, you need to call your landlord and have this discussion now, not after you're late, not after all this. And so as a business owner, gosh, if someone really owed us, and you can tell when they're sincere in what's going to make it right, and the fact that you were doing these weekly meetings, I just think it speaks volumes. How could they not work with you? I mean, there's a lesson in that just in itself.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. So, that was I was kind of a trial by fire. I learned business really from having a lot of people that were upset with us, high tension, a lot of fighting amongst the vendors of who should be paid first and who shouldn't, and having to arbitrate those things and trying to do it as openly and transparently as possible with everybody, so everybody knew where every dollar was going. And honestly, I found myself repeating this over and over again, is telling each of them that even though each one of them thought they were the most important vendor, that every single one of them were equally important to us. Yep. Because it represented a dollar that we owed somebody. And so we weren't going to prioritize vendors based on how much we owed them or on how important their business was to us, because to us, they all had their own battles they were fighting. They all had their own stories, and they're important. Yep. So we recognize that.
So you're involved in a lot more than just dealerships. How many dealerships do you own now?
I'm a partner in 4 dealerships, dealer principal of 3 of those dealerships. And still we have national business brokers, which, with the whole team that sells dealerships. And then I have a handful of other businesses too.
All right. Can you give us a few of them? Or?
Yeah, sure. We have the exclusive distributorship for the Petra automotive products for the state of California and for the state of Hawaii. We have an exclusive distributorship for just revolutionary equipment that refinishes wheels called the DCR Pro, that's manufactured in the UK, and we brought it to the United States, and we're just starting to distribute that in the United States. It's a fantastic piece of equipment, not inexpensive. It's about $85,000 for this equipment, but it gives you an OEM level refinishing of a wheel. We have another company called Clip Assist that I'm a partner in, that's mobile dent and paint repair business that is sold through F&I offices and dealerships. Almost all the businesses I'm a part of, I'm a partner in another business that's a technology company that is developed a software that's AI driven that runs a live online auction. It's an absolute game changer for wholesale auctions, online wholesale auctions. And we have a lot of OEMs now that are signing up to be a part of this live auction. And that's going to go live in June. So it is, it's interesting. All of these businesses really came out of relationships that have been built with people as I've been out in the industry and networked and gotten to know people. And I care a lot about relationship. I really believe that the best raw material for any success is people. And the right people, and so I've probably been more opportunistic than strategic, but all those businesses are related to the car business in some way.
Well, you got to have a good vision for recognizing good opportunities. So, that's the one thing. And you bring up relationships. You've also got to have the right vision in the sense of, it's one thing to see a good opportunity coming down the path, but also who do I know that I might have a strategic alliance with, or can shorten this learning curve or really make this take off. So I think you're very good at that as well. My question to you is this. So you've got national business brokers, they're first, then you started doing, then I assume the dealerships, correct? Or is there another one in between there?
No, the dealerships were next. So they all kind of built on each other. And I will tell you that it really, at least in my case, it starts with trying to be as excellent as you can be and have as good of a company as you could have in your core company. And the core and the heartbeat for me is national business brokers. I mean, it really, truly is. I've been doing that for 35 years. I've personally been involved in over 450 buy-sell transactions. Our company will break the 1,000th deal mark maybe this year, if not next year. And that's just new car dealerships. We've sold over 4,000 other kinds of businesses, from, like I said before, small manufacturing companies and donut shops and restaurants. But in the car business, we're going to break the 1,000 deal mark either this year or next year.
So with national business brokers, in my opinion, it gives you a very unique perspective in the sense that you're looking at all these different businesses. You should be able to obviously recognize what a company needs in terms of how to position itself for a sale, but at the same time, what do buyers really want when they're looking for this stuff? How has that experience kind of shaped, I guess, your mindset as to why you wanted to diversify your portfolio? And was there anything from all that experience that said, I should be doing this, this, and this because of blank?
Yeah, I think that, for me, when you get around car dealers, there are different levels of dealers that have different levels of vision. And from the seat that I've been able to have the privilege to sit in, I see the guys who own one or two dealerships, and then I see guys who've taken that one or two dealerships and turned it into 150 dealerships.
Right.
And watched how they did that. And I was always fascinated by the individuals that had big enough vision that they never limited their ability to succeed or the opportunities that they got involved in by they never limited themselves. They had huge vision. And then they realized that in order to be able to do it, they had to build teams of people around them that were very capable. And, I learned a long time ago, and this is really true in our car dealerships, A players do not want to work for B players. In fact, they won't work for B players. And so the most important thing is that every significant leadership position in every company that I'm involved in, it is really all about people and leadership development and finding the most excellent people you can possibly find, pay them better than anybody else is willing to pay them, keep them forever if you can, have as little turnover as you can, and let them become experts at their role and create opportunity for them to grow. That if I was going to give anybody any advice that's in a leadership position, develop your people, pay them better than anybody else, set the right example for them, and give them opportunity and a clear path to growing in their career. And then businesses are going to grow that you're involved in.
Yeah.
Brady, there's three things that you said there that really resonate with me. Later on today, I've got a client conference call to address a lack of depth on a bench of a company that's got five businesses to operate under one umbrella. And the big concern they have right now is that they found out, because they ended up having to terminate someone in a leadership capacity, that they did not have anybody internally to step up into that role, whether it was under the rooftop where they made the termination, or other rooftops that they own. And so you speak to a critical aspect of scale and growth in any business, which is having people, but having the right people, having high quality people that have talent, and developing them and giving them a path to grow. And so I think it's a great point that you make in terms of making certain that you provide them the kind of opportunity and also the level of income, because I don't believe that you can overpay for good people that have talent or have great raw ability and instincts. And so I think those points need to be
Sandy, that's so true. I can tell you that what I might overpay people, I save in turnover, I save in gross generation. I mean, these are people who sell better. They make more money when they sell. They get our clients more money at national business brokers for their dealerships, which increases the amount of commissions that we make. The quality of the people and their passion for what they do, and genuinely caring about helping people. I mean, at the core of this, honestly, for me, is figuring out how to help. My job is to serve everyone else that works with me as best I can serve them. And oftentimes that just looks like removing barriers from their paths. And, so.
What do you think are the key benefits of diversifying, being involved in this many different businesses?
Well, I can tell you, for me, it was necessity. We, in a service business, we don't sell a product at National Business Brokers. We sell other people's businesses, and it's a service business. And so there's a real cycle to that, and it takes a long time. It takes as long as, sometimes 12 months, 9 months from start to finish when somebody decides they want to sell their dealership to the time we actually get it closed and a buyer writes the check and we get paid. And so for us, we had a very flourishing business for years and years and years, raised my family with this business. And then 2008, September 2008 hit, and we had 14 deals pending in escrow. And every single bank in every one of those transactions pulled their financing. We lost every single deal. We lost over a year's worth of revenue. We lost over a year's worth of revenue in about 4 weeks after Lehman Brothers went belly up. And so 2009, 2010, 2011 were really tough years. It took a while before banks started giving floor plan again or any kind of acquisition loans, and interest rates were high. It was, just a really difficult time. And so realized then, I knew we were going to survive because we had a healthy balance sheet, but I realized then in the service business, there's a real vulnerability. And so what could we do? What else can I do that would be connected to national business brokers or connected to the same industry? And I realized, why don't we look at trying to buy some dealerships, invest in dealerships? Yep. And so we started in 2013 or 14, starting to look at stores. Now, remember, we're selling them. So we're analyzing them. We're looking at their financial statements. We have opportunities coming at us all the time. And so in 2018 was the first chance we really had. We listed a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Fresno, California. And it was right when the market was beginning to turn, and we overpriced it a little bit. And we couldn't sell it. It was a fantastic business. But we were on the market. We loved the business. We couldn't get anybody to step up to the price. So we went to the owners and we said, listen, if we raise the capital, would you let us buy it? And we'll end up, pushing our commission in for equity. And we'll end up with a very small piece of that store. But if we can raise the capital, so we did. They said yes. We paid the asking price. We couldn't negotiate. We were the ones that valued the business. And so we bought that store. We took the general manager, who was already a minority owner, and we elevated him to dealer principal and allowed him to get a much bigger stake in the deal. And that turned out to be a fantastic investment. And in that process, I had to get approval with Mercedes-Benz to become the dealer successor. And in that process, they found out that I'm American Indian, and that was important to them at the time. And so I had no idea how that would change my life. So that deal was great. We owned it. We had sold it November of last year, actually, to a Canadian group. But in the meantime, I was able to buy the 2 Hyundai stores in Hawaii and a Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram store in Hawaii with the existing general manager that was operating those stores as well. Similar story. The owner listed that store with us, and 3 months into the process, he got terminal throat cancer. Was diagnosed with terminal throat cancer, and his name is Trey Badova. He became a great personal friend. And 2 weeks before he passed away, he called me and said, Brady, would you and Gary, my business partner at National Business Brokers, be willing to back my general manager, who's like a son to me, and he doesn't have the money to buy the stores. You guys do. Would you be willing to be his financial partner, and I'll sell you the stores? And that's how we bought those stores in Hawaii.
Wow.
So, everything that's happened in my life has come from working hard, trying to do the right thing, caring more about other people's needs than I really care about my own. And then opportunities have just come to us.
I think there's another benefit that comes out of this. So I'm putting myself, first off, you said you were American Indian, right? Did I hear that right?
Cherokee Indian.
Did you talk to my wife at all in Scottsdale at Business Bourbon and Cigars?
I said, we chatted for a bit. Yeah.
She's Native American.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, I could guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I'm surprised you don't remember asking me to go pull her away from Brady 3 or 4 times because you were jealous.
Well, I was going to tell her I limit her minutes with people with his hair. I don't. So I try to limit the exposure.
Mary kept asking me. I said, Brady who? What are you talking about? There's no Brady here.
Hey, speaking of hair, normally I have a beard, and I want you guys to know I woke up this morning. My youngest son's home from college. I go in to trim my beard. I have the same electric razor that I trim my beard with once a week. He had accidentally knocked it off the counter, and I didn't know, and put it back up, and the 1.5 head had popped off of it. And so I go like this to shave this morning, and I look like a skunk. The rest of my beard was here, and this was like at a 0.5. So I'm like, well, the beard's gone. So
nice.
You'll look good, buddy.
So, there's a lot of connections we have on this. Brady, you brought up, and I might have the name wrong, but Lloyd Peterson Jr.
Lloyd Pearson.
Pearson. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Pearson Jr. And you said he was the son of the dealer. He was 60. The dad was 90 something.
The son was 67.
Yeah. Like a lot of people don't know this, but Sandy's his older cousin.
Hey, you want to know a funny connection? So Fritz Hitchcock bought that store, was our first dealership buyer client that I said my dad became great friends with. I became good friends with him. So fast forward to 2019. Not 2019. Fast forward to 2023. No, 2022. Sorry, December 2022, and I bought Fritz Hitchcock's first Ford store that he owned in City of Industry. I'm sitting there right now in City of Industry. On the day of closing, I reached down in the desk, and you have to understand this dealership upstairs, the corporate offices have not been remodeled since Fritz Hitchcock built it like 40 years ago. And so I reached down in Fritz's desk that I'm sitting at now as the dealer principal. I pull a stack of papers out, I flip them over, and on the back of the paper it says Fritz was here in his own handwriting. He had written on these papers, wow. Fritz was here. And so I have that framed actually in my office. Yeah. So it's just one of those God moments where, you just know you're sitting in the right place when the very first client we ever had, and one of my mentors in the car business was Fritz Hitchcock. And here I bought his original store, 30 years later. It's just crazy.
That was him winking at you, Brady.
Yeah.
No doubt. So one of the things I want to say about the key benefits is I'm putting myself in your shoes and I'm thinking, it's not just that you have all these businesses, but now you've also, if you've got some partners in there, if you've got some strategic alliances with other suppliers, other businesses that are connected to it, but just think of the network that also gets built, and all of a sudden you're exposed to an entirely new group of business leaders, and all of a sudden you're able to start tapping into these minds, right? And you're working with them. You got close relationships with them. It's even better.
Well, and that's what happened. I mean, that's how I met you guys, Business Bourbon and Cigars. I mean, what an incredible leaders symposium. I mean, I that is one of the most amazing events I've ever been to. I've met probably 3 people that I'm going to end up doing significant business with out of that one event. And that's it. I mean, that's what's happened. Like the distributorship for Petra, one of the key values that we have as an organization is figuring out how to meaningfully give back in the communities that we do business. And Troy Duhan's been a friend and a dear client for many years on the national business broker side. We've sold him a number of dealerships. We've sold a lot of stores for him. And I'm like, in Hawaii, I was thinking, what could we do? And there's a real food insecurity problem in Hawaii. And I said, Troy built these food pantries that he's given food away to people. And he's doing it in conjunction with the state and the city. When Katrina hit, he started a food pantry. And so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to call Troy and ask him how he did it. So I called Troy. Within 10 minutes, he said, listen, you're coming under our umbrella. It's going to be Giving Hope Hawaii. So 3 months later, we have a 4,000 square foot food pantry open on our property in our dealerships. We started that 2 years ago. We're feeding 4,600 families 2 weeks worth of groceries every month now out of a 4,000 square foot food pantry in Hawaii.
That's incredible. And I saw the recent post. I think Dan Shine from Automotive News put something out there about you and Arnold's with
Petra Care.
Yeah, with Petra Cares. But the food thing as well. I think that's something Troy, with Giving Hope, I think that's something he should try and get going almost in every state. I mean, he's got enough connections with everybody.
Scalable. And that's the thing is that when you match big business with a real societal need, you can really make a huge impact. So I agree. Food pantries like that could be in every single major city in this country, and we could almost solve food insecurity in this country with that.
Amen.
With that template. And Petra Cares, this issue of kids aging out of foster care and not having any direction and not having any social network and no family. I mean, any 3 of us, we have children. They want to get a job. We can pick the phone up and call 50 people and help them get a job. They have so many options and so many choices. These kids that are aging out of foster care, they not only do they not have any choices, they have no resources. The minute that the government cuts off their funding for housing, they are homeless the next day, 18 years old. Yep. And so this Petra Cares program is the most amazing program I've ever seen. And I told Arnold, I said, as soon as you guys are ready, I want to bring it to our store in Southern California. Well, that's happening now in September. And we already have 3 other dealerships in LA that want to run this program in their dealerships. So imagine, fast forward 5 years, PetraCare's program running in 20 to 30 dealerships in every major city in the country.
Absolutely.
All 23,000 to 30,000 kids that age out of foster care every year could have a career path that can pay them not only a living wage, but a fantastic wage.
Oh, yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that I get really excited about.
Well, I think, Brady, the fact that it creates an access point for them with a skill set that they can continue to scale, right, and improve, and then create a path that maybe takes them out of a technician stall and into a management position, or at one point in time, potentially owning their own dealership or dealer group. I think it's incredible. And the one statistic that blew me away, because, we've had some peripheral involvement over here with PetraCares, and that is that the average life expectancy is 23 years of age. My son is about to turn 23, and that blew me away. That number just really resonated with me. And I thought about exactly what you said. What if my kids didn't have that support network that they enjoy, as kids that are somewhat, I'll say, privileged. I hate to use that word, but, they don't lack for that family structure. They don't lack for the support, and they don't lack for that network of connections that they can leverage. And so I think it's such an incredible cause.
And bring this full circle to our, the topic of our conversation is that young people today that are coming into all of our organizations, they don't just care about making money. They care about making a difference. Right. Like they genuinely care about making an impact in people's lives around them. So as business leaders, we have a responsibility to create opportunities through our businesses with the resources that we have to help everybody that works with us and become our teammates in our companies to have meaningful work to do, not just to make a living, but to help other people. And we found that these things are as much culture builders in our companies as they are doing good in our communities. And so it is a win-win-win for everybody involved.
The 3 C's, right? Character, culture, and community is the thread that ties and ultimately binds. And one of the things that we teach all the time is if you make a difference, the dollars will always follow. But seek first to make the difference. That's where it really happens.
That's right. I told my
son. The other thing I want to note, Brady, is that Scott actually solved food insecurity at his house. If you've ever seen the pantry and the snacks that are stored in the cupboard right outside of Scott's office, you'd be shocked. But he did solve food insecurity for himself.
That's at J&L Marketing. And there have been complaints issued to Jamil for the quality of the snacks in the snack cabinet. However, at my house, there is food insecurity from all of my kids who have to hide their Halloween candy and any candy that comes from the stocking or whatever. They literally hide it. Oh yeah. I'll take it down. That's my Achilles heel. Is always battling my self-discipline when it comes to. I have good self-discipline in a lot of areas. That one I battle.
That's
funny.
That's great. So let me ask you this question: how do you go into life a year, 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is, with a plan that says, all right, I want to diversify. I want to own this many more businesses, or I want to do this and this. Or do opportunities just kind of come to you and you're able to recognize them and you just do that? How does that work for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's been a combination of both for sure. I would say getting into the dealership business to become a dealer was something that had to be planned. And we spent a lot of time planning. I went to Ally University. I went through General Motors Holding Program. I did a lot of education for a couple of years to get qualified. I've been looking at dealer financial statements for 35 years, and I can look at opportunity, find opportunity in a statement. I can find where the problems are. That's one thing to be a consultant or be an academic about it. It's another thing to actually, train a service writer or hire a technician and know all the metrics from an owner's perspective. And so that took a lot of planning, but I would say in general, my philosophy has been dream big, think big, have big vision, like as big a vision as you can possibly have. So when I think about PetraCares, I don't just think about our store. I think about it being in 30 dealerships in every major market in the country, because then you have, a solution for 23,000, 24,000 people. So that's how I usually start. And then I I try and plan as diligently as I can, and then I move fast and adjust along the way. And I've taken a lot of lumps moving fast, because sometimes it's ready, fire, aim, and it should have been a little bit more ready, aim, fire. So it's probably cost me a lot of money over the years, but I will tell you, there is real power in forward momentum. Momentum is a real thing.
Yes.
And just taking action, even if it's not the perfect action or just the right action, oftentimes is progress. And what happens is that you end up having to refine yourself and your process and your thinking and your strategy and your implementation in business in order to survive. And so you automatically get better if you're working hard and trying to find the right people that care about what you're doing and bring them on board. Eventually you succeed. You fail enough, right, until you finally succeed. The goal is just to not give up and survive along the way.
So how do you identify, because obviously you can't be day to day involved in all these different things. So you've got to have some type of strategic partnerships, in the automotive circle, managing partners come involved. You already mentioned you're doing that. How do you identify potential, I guess, strategic partners for the different?
Well, I will say that there has never been a business that I've gotten involved in that I haven't already identified the person I would do it with in the business. That's always been a prerequisite. It's all about people. And one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen dealers make over the years is that they have the capital. They make a lot of money in these stores. They can go buy stores, but they don't realize how important depth of their bench is, or how important it is to transplant their DNA and their culture into a new store. And they think that they'll be able to just go buy stores and use existing general managers or hire new general managers. And then what they find out is they spread themselves too thin too quickly. The ones who have built organizations that have 25, 30, 50, 100 stores are the guys who have really over promoted people in their own core stores. They might be stacked 2 or 3 people deep, and their payroll is completely out of whack for the benchmarks. They're not making as much money as they should be making because they have 2 or 3 people in positions that really can manage the next level of position. And then when they go buy a store, they take some key people and they plant them into those new stores, and they're phenomenally successful. And then you just do that over and over and over again. And so one of the strategic pillars for me is not stepping forward into something new unless I have who I believe is the right person to partner with or the right leader to build around. And that served me very well.
I agree 100%. I bring this story up a lot, and I'm not going to mention names because I don't have his permission, but I had a good friend here in Louisville. He was not involved in the car business. He collected cars, Highline cars. And he called me up one day and goes, "Hey, let's go grab coffee over at Starbucks." So we sit down, we're drinking a coffee, and he goes, "I have an opportunity to buy a Porsche dealership, and I want to get your input on what it's going to take." This was a big metro market, very low volume store. By the way, in after 10 years, he had 10 times the volume.
Yep.
And my advice was this, and really there wasn't a lot after this. I said, quite honestly, I said, I've got 3 stores, so I speak from experience on this. I said, the auto industry, in my opinion, is the easiest business I've ever been a part of. The retail automotive side is the easiest thing. If
big if, man. Big if right there.
Yes. I said, you get the right general manager. I said, and everything else will take care of itself. Obviously, you got to have the right CFO, things like that. And
right capital structure. Yeah.
Correct. But if you don't have the right general manager, you're not going to enjoy this business. You get the right one, it's going to be easy, because most of the people you're going to compete against, they think they're good because of what they make versus what they actually contribute and do. And so to me, man, he went in, he found that key guy. All right. And he said the first 2 years he had to, all it was just reassuring the volume will come. Stay patient with me. You know, I need you here and here, because the guy was probably getting bored because he came from a high volume store to the store selling 90 Porsches a year.
Wow.
All right. So it ended up 900 plus by the time. In 10 years, this guy who had not owned one store sold his company and he had 19 rooftops, all super high end. And so I'm talking supercars, Bentleys, Lambos, Ferraris. It was that brand, and he had a brand and he had a niche, and he just went with it. But he understood. And if you walked through his organization, the culture was incredible. But all that comes from exactly what you're saying. Yeah. It's the leadership in the store. It's who's doing the day-to-day. And that's ultimately, I think, what makes it all work. Sandy, what you
well, I actually know who you're talking about. We sold him a couple of stores at National Business Brokers, and I will say a dynamic guy. I mean, you know, one of those guys who you just want to be around. And
yes,
and I think that's another thing is I always just try and be somebody that other people would want to be around. Like I want to inspire people. I want to encourage people. I want to get into their personal lives and understand the battles they're facing, because when they know that I care about them, the amount of caring I get back toward me is disproportionate. Like, you know, I invest as much as I can in everybody that I work with, but it's a disproportionate amount of loyalty that comes back and passion that comes back and wanting to succeed and do it for us as a team. And so he's one of those people. He's one of those people who wanted to come to work for. He's dynamic.
When you listen to all the little details that he pays attention to, whether it's just from operations or from marketing or branding, and just how things that I wouldn't have thought he would prior to coming into automotive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought he would have taken the thought or the time to really nail it down to that level. And I love because I eventually interviewed him on my former podcast, and I absolutely loved the conversation, and because I found myself just constantly asking out of curiosity, wow, you thought of that? You thought of this? Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
You know, he's back in the game.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Very well. To him a lot, actually. Yeah.
So I've been trying to get him to Business Bourbon and Cigars the last 2 or 3 events. So I think he's going to be coming to Louisville in September. So
that's great.
You need to show back up again for that.
I have a quick question, because I think there's 2 points that you guys touched upon, and I think it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders struggle with, right? Especially when you're making an investment in a new business or you're starting a new business. And one of the things that Brady talked about was taking action. And I think the real word is decisiveness. You have to be decisive in terms of the course of action that you're going to take. You've also got to be willing to make adjustments, which Brady alluded to before. But Scott, you talked about the patience that this gentleman exhibited in allowing the plan to work through, right? And sometimes you have to have, not sometimes, I think all the time, you've got to have that ability to balance on a sometimes daily basis your decisiveness and your desire to take action and fix things with a patience that allows the results that you seek to catch up with the efforts that have been put forth up until that point in time.
Amen. Amen.
How do you do that effectively in your world, Brady?
Well, that's probably the area that I've made the most mistakes, you know, is meddling too much when you have the right people in place. And I think I said this at Business Bourbon and Cigars, and I mean it. You know, I've had to learn to temper the pace at which I want things to happen, because things just don't happen as quickly as I want them to happen. Mm-hmm. And so I have to be careful about the amount of change that I force on any organization that I lead. And I need to give the people the trust and the time to let the good decisions that they've already made catch up with them, and then build on it. So I would say that's probably one of my biggest weaknesses in business, actually, is just lack of patience to let the right plans unfold.
It's funny you say it that way, Brady, because I really believe I would prefer somebody that errs on the side of being a little more impatient than patient, because sometimes you really do have to force things.
Being too patient can put you out of business.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. If Jamil Zabanay's watching this show, and I know he's not, because while SJ 24/7 is here working, he is out at Valhalla enjoying the PGA championship practice round today. And
Is he
so,
really? Good for him.
oh yeah, oh yeah. So,
He's
but if he
probably
was
got
watching,
he's probably got a client or two with him, I'll bet.
he probably, I hope so. So he's probably watching and saying, yeah, Scott meddles too much too. Scott meddles, and he's too impatient too. So,
I've never heard him say that to me, Scott.
never.
I think he said the opposite of business, bourbon, and cigars. I think he said that he actually appreciates the fact that you pretty much leave him alone.
Oh, well, now I do. It took me 5 years to figure it out. So that's, but eventually, I said to myself in the last, just like National Business Brokers is your thing, right? J&L Marketing was mine for a very long time and still is, but I have a 1,000% faith in Jamil to make every decision on this company moving forward.
He's earned that, and you've given him that opportunity to earn it, by the way.
But it took me a long time to get there.
Well, that was on you, but at the end of the day, you still allowed him to. It's like being a parent, fellas. Like when you think about it, it's like being a parent. You never want to see your kids make a mistake, especially a mistake that they're going to make. But really, sometimes that's the only way that we can learn the lesson. And that's a hard thing from a leadership and an ownership perspective to allow to happen, especially when you've got at times millions or tens of millions of dollars at stake. That is I think that's a learned behavior.
Well, that's it, because our tendency, I think, I have a feeling most business leaders' personality types are a little bit, have some similarities. There's some through lines for all of us, right? We're probably pretty strong. We're pretty opinionated. We think we know the right way in most things, which I've learned. My wife has finally taught me that no, you don't. But I think one of the biggest challenges we have is not holding on to things too tightly and too long when we have the right people, and letting them fail quickly to learn.
Well, I'm going to reference a book, Brady, but Scott, I don't know if you've ever read it, Scott, of Mice and Men. Brady, I suspect you probably have. But it's like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. He loved the mice so much that he'd squeeze them to death in his hand while it was in his pocket.
Right.
And that's kind of how we look at our businesses sometimes.
I'm personally insulted just the fact that he thinks I didn't read it, but he thought you did. And so I as if I'm not a reader. And so I don't know what that implies. Sandy, just because I don't know the big words that you,
it was required. You read it, Scott. It was required reading your sophomore year in high school.
Well, then I definitely didn't read it. Then I definitely didn't read it. So, but I will say this, I read now more than I did in school, but sometimes when you have the right person, they don't always make the right decisions, right? But here's the thing. It's still got to be their way. So when you know in your heart, this is the wrong decision, he shouldn't be do this. But when you interject that and you kind of find your passive aggressive way to still get it done, it takes away from all the things that they do. In other words, I think it takes a chip out of them a little bit. It takes a little bit of oomph, and it's almost like you got to live with some of the wrong decisions because the good so outweighs those moments. And that's what you talked about momentum, right? I feel like if they've got momentum, it doesn't matter if they've got some wrong decisions going around because they got other decisions that are going to vault them. It doesn't.
That's right. And 80% of the success comes from 20% of the good decisions. The other 80% of the decisions are mediocre at best, and probably many of them bad. I think our job as leaders, though, is to help them avoid fatal mistakes. Right. Yeah. That's where we have to step in. Is if you see something going on, it's a fatal mistake, or it's a mistake that you've made in the past that almost cost you your business or your livelihood. That's when we step in. But other than that, you have to. I often say to my general managers, and I'm very involved in the dealership business. What's funny is that I can run National Business Brokers and be in my stores because, as you guys know, the nature of being a dealer principal, you're making 5 or 6 decisions a day that are, that don't take a lot of time, and you're just making sure everything's in its place and everything's going the way it's supposed to go. But we have a lot of time on our hands. Dealers that I know that have the most time on their hands are the ones that own 20, 30, 40 stores.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The ones that own 1 or 2 stores, they're living busy lives. So for me, what I've found is that giving when you find the right person or someone you think is the right person, letting them make as many mistakes as they need to make, as long as they're not fatal mistakes. Stepping in when you think it's a fatal mistake.
I
So
love it. I think that's a great lesson.
you said you did not move forward with the business. You already have someone in mind potentially to run it or partner with, whatever it might be. Walk us through that process a little bit. In other words,
Yeah.
like, do you just kind of put that, you know what, you've met some person, you develop some type of relationship, there's some trust there. Put this in my back pocket. This person would be good at this type of thing or this type of thing. And how does that work for you?
Well, here's what's amazing. You know, you guys have we all heard this before, but luck is when preparedness and opportunity meet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how many times I've gotten lucky in a moment in time where both of those things came together at the same time or close to the same time. So it's not like I have all these people in my back pocket that I think would be good at things and I'm looking for opportunities. Usually what happens is I'll meet somebody interesting. I know that I could have a role in helping them succeed at something. I don't know necessarily what it is, because they're my kind of people. They're the kind of people that I know will be loyal. They'll be honest. They'll work their tails off to make something succeed. They'll encourage people. They'll want to do the right thing. These are things that I look for in people. So when I find someone like that, it's amazing how often when someone like that comes into my life, how quickly an opportunity comes right behind it that suits them perfectly. And so my vision is always about how do I help this person succeed in their life? And then it's funny how often I end up being a partner with that person in a business.
Yeah, but there it is. It's give, give, give. Universe has a great way of rewarding people who give, sincerely give, not give for a reason, right? You know, to get back.
And there's nothing better than helping somebody find their passion and be a part of it. You know, I do that for free. And hopefully none of my partners are listening right now, but helping people find their passion and watch them flourish, watching other people flourish, that's a really gratifying thing.
Where do you feel like,
Brady, it's like the chicken and the egg, right? You know, is it the opportunity that presents itself and then the person shows up, you know, serendipitously, or is it vice versa? And I bet you've got a pretty equal mix of each, right?
It is interesting how close in proximity those two things have happened and all the things I've gotten involved in.
I don't think they're by accident or by coincidence.
Yeah, no. I think it's God. I think God has a plan for our lives, and
yes,
He's got to pay attention. We got to be mindful and be ready and say, here I am, send me. You know,
paying attention,
spot the signs, right?
Correct. Paying attention and recognizing when it happens. How do you? So you got all these things. How do you maintain a good, effective communication strategy with all your different partners and all these different businesses?
Great question.
You know, that is another area that I probably struggle at. I think that there are leaders in some of my organizations that deserve more of my time than they get, and that can be a problem. But they're good enough people that they understand, and they when they reach out when they need help. But I think a big part of that, Scott, is paying attention to the fundamentals of every business on a daily basis. You know, it's not that hard to get a 30,000 foot view of each business each day, and then making comment, you know, to things that you see or insight to things that you see, more so people know I'm paying attention, more so that these leaders know that I'm actually engaged and thinking about the business and thinking about them. And then they reach out to me when they have a need, or I reach out to them. But, you know, I talk to every one of my business partners or key leaders at least a few times a week. That's how I spend most of my time is talking to leaders.
Nice. What are some of the pitfalls? So, you know, we've talked a lot about all the advantages and the keys, but what are some of the things that, like, all right, watch out for this, this, and this?
Well, I would say capital is always a pitfall. You know, any of these businesses being undercapitalized is a scary thing. And I've been in that situation a number of times in my career. You know, and so having these businesses be any of them being undercapitalized, things usually cost twice as much as you expect, and they take twice as long to accomplish as you think they will. So whatever business plan you put, whatever your pro forma shows, double the expenses and make the success twice as long to get there, and make sure you have enough capital to weather that.
Great comment.
That's a big pitfall. I think for people like me, having too much faith in people can sometimes be a big pitfall. I think I'm good at assessing character and assessing people, but man, I've made some big mistakes. I've brought some people into my businesses in key roles that didn't end up being good people.
Well, sometimes, so I won't try to assume what you mean by good people, because that could go a couple different ways, right? It could be called performance or just from an ethics standpoint, but
usually ends up being both. But
one begets the other.
Sometimes when we're not performing well, our ethics could be a little more flexible. No, it is, or some people's, I should say that. But I guess, do you find it to where sometimes you might have more of an empowering belief of what someone can accomplish versus maybe what they do? In other words, you believe in them and their capabilities or what they should be accomplishing more than they actually do. And
I would say that's almost 100% of the time. Like, it's amazing to me how good so many good people sell themselves short in their own thinking and their own ability. And usually it's around the way they think. It's the internal dialogue. It's the narrative in their own head. And if I can help people get out of that negative narrative in their own head, or one that's limiting, to really open their minds up to how much potential they actually have, then it's a game changer. And so I think in almost every case, in fact, I want to be in business with people that I see who they really are and their potential, and it's just a number of small tweaks that can help them see that.
That's right.
David Spizak talks about the ifs and whens that he encounters, throughout his travels. The people that it's just a matter of, when they figure it out versus if they'll ever figure it out.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think it's our job as leaders to unlock those things and speak that who we see them being eventually as like it's now. Like, that we believe that's who they are.
Right.
So, Brady, you brought up earlier that national business brokers, you're not just in the business in auto. So you're selling other businesses. You're facilitating sales and acquisitions in other industries as well. Is that accurate?
We started out that way, and then when my dad sold his first new car dealership in 1984, he separated the general business brokerage from the automotive business brokerage. So now we solely focus on selling new car dealerships. That's all we sell. I have another division that my brother runs that still sells small businesses, and he does great at that, but it's completely separate. Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you this question: if somebody wants to reach out and connect with you, whether could have nothing to do with national business brokers, but what's the easiest way people can connect with you and see if there's some opportunities?
My email at National Business Brokers is brady@nationalbusinessbrokers.com. My cell phone number is 949-910-2060, and it rings right here.
Nice. Sandy, what about you?
The stat answer, buddy, is sandycerami.com/connect. Any one of my social media profiles has all my direct contact information as well.
All right. So a big thank you to our guest, Brady Schmidt, and our special guest host, Sandy Cerami, the Solutionist, for their invaluable insights and expertise today. If you found this episode, this live stream, informative, be sure you subscribe to Me Plus Ultra Network. It's on YouTube. That way you don't miss any shows. And you can also follow us on all the major social media platforms, because we usually stream live to all those as well, for more thought-provoking discussions with industry leaders. Until next time, keep innovating, keep diversifying, and keep striving for greatness. Thank you, everyone.
Amen.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Brady.